Yes, good morning, one and all. I'm just here taking a look at the Hurricane Melissa and their impact on the regions, particularly the Western Caribbean islands, and all those regions where Melissa passed through, and just the devastation that is left behind. I'm still waiting to hear from some of my family members. I haven't heard from a few of them, and I'm very concerned that I'm not getting any phone calls, so obviously I know that the lights are still down, there's no water. I just cannot begin to imagine the impact in Jamaica. I mean, when Gilbert, I still have a vivid memory of the darkness, and we had a bit of fun in the darkness and whatever, because you know what Jamaicans are like. We are survivors. But I know it must be difficult for people who lost their homes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Imagine being homeless at a time like this. You know, the Christmas season is approaching. People must have put a lot of plan in place, preparing, and then this Melissa storm comes. So really I'm trying to examine and make a comparison of the regions that the storm targeted, you know, and I'm also trying to have a look at the role that climate change played into these scenarios and what could be done, if anything, to prevent all the devastation that took place. I mean, hurricanes like Melissa are becoming more intense and in some cases more frequent, which is connected to the broader impact of global warming. It is a known fact that climate change had played a role in this particular storm, you know. Many Atlantic hurricanes form off the coast of Africa, they said, and then travel westward to the Caribbean islands, including Jamaica, because Jamaica lies directly in this common track storm. You know, so Jamaica is not immune. Jamaica cannot avoid hurricanes because it is often in the path of hurricanes. So I'm going to look today how we can prepare better and how to avoid these things. The fact that Jamaica is surrounded by water, Jamaica is a little island in the Caribbean. Well, not so little, obviously, because we are one of the greater Antilles, yeah? But Jamaica has no natural barriers to weaken storms, you know? So they experience strong winds, heavy rains, and storm surges from all sides. So, because of the geographic location of Jamaica, it exposes the island to significant hurricane risk, especially during Atlantic hurricane season between June and November. Those are hurricane seasons. So, I mean, if anybody is traveling to Jamaica, it's better to avoid those months between June to November. You understand? I couldn't help but notice some foreigners from abroad. They travel to Jamaica and they're complaining about food at a time when so many people have lost their home. It is ironic, I'm telling you. Yes, I'm just going to briefly talk about how storms and the global warming are linked. Warmer ocean waters are obviously the Caribbean Sea, it's between 1 and 2 degrees. So hurricanes get their energy from warm ocean surfaces. That's why places like England and cold countries are not prone to hurricanes because it's too cold for them. So as global temperatures rise, sea surfaces and temperatures increase, you know, providing something that they call fuel storms. Now, this can make the hurricane stronger with more intense winds and heavy rainfall. That is why when Hurricane Melissa made its landfall in Jamaica, it it rapidly intensified. It picked up speed. You understand? Now, increased moisture is another factor. A warmer atmosphere can hold moisture. So this means storms can produce heavier rainfall, um, leading to increased flooding risk, you know. Now, the rise in sea levels is another factor. Global warming cause sea levels to rise due to melting caps and the expansion of seawater as it warms. Now, higher sea levels worsen storm surges. So, when you see those large waves driven by hurricanes that flood coastal areas, it flooded more severely. And there's also a change in the storm patterns. Climate change can influence where and when storms occur. I'm telling you now. So sometimes expanding hurricanes activity to areas previously less affected. That's why I don't understand why the storm, instead of featuring in the southwest, it headed to the north. And slower storm movement, recent studies have suggested that hurricanes are moving more slowly, which is what we see with Hurricane Melissa. And this means that areas experience prolonged exposure to destructive winds and rain and worsening damages, you know. That's why the situation like in St. Elizabeth and Black River, it devastated the area, it destroyed churches and it brought them completely flat. Yes, it is a known fact that Jamaica's location surrounded by the warm waters of the Caribbean Sea played a very big role in why it often experiences the full impact of hurricane, unfortunately. Because the warm water, like I said earlier, it fuels hurricanes and there's no escape. So Jamaica just have to prepare, and I'll talk more about that in a little while. Now, the hurricanes draw their energy from warm ocean waters, typically above, say, 26.5 degrees Celsius, or in comparison, it's similar to like 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, the Caribbean Sea warm temperatures provide the ideal condition for hurricane to form and strengthen. So next time when you hear people talking about um it's a act from God or it's this or it's that, it's all to do with man-made situation like climate change and global warming. Because I mean, Jamaica belonged to a group of larger islands in the Caribbean Sea known as the Greater Antilles. So they're not very small, and they lie in the northwestern Caribbean Sea and form the northern boundary of the Caribbean Sea. So you see, I'm reiterating what I said because I need you to understand the reason why the storm landed in Jamaica and why it evolved onto like Cuba, Haiti, and places like those. The Greater Antilles, which it is a group of the four largest islands in the Caribbean: Cuba, Hispaniola, um, Haiti, of course. 25 people died in Haiti. Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. So, I mean, these islands are characterized by diverse landscapes, including mountains. So you would have thought that there would be an edge of protection because they got fertile plains and extensive coastline. But no, these islands are much bigger in compared to the smaller islands like Trinidad and Tobago and places like those. But to put it simply, Jamaica geographical features within this cluster of larger islands place it firmly in that region, making it, you know, nearer to the Blue Mountains, and it's the world's leading producer of bauxite, and these resources is a major contribution to the Jamaica economy. That's why when the Minister of Local Government, Mr. Desmond McKenzie, was reporting about the impact, I'm telling you, it was a devastation, and my heart goes out to those people in St. Elizabeth because, Black River is totally destroyed, and the areas like St. Anne, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, it's terrible. I mean, it was clear from the outset the government did say that Jamaica couldn't stand a Category 5 storm, you know? And the storm wind, when it reached Jamaica, was 241, and that's why I was a bit concerned. Because when it hit Jamaica, it landed at 185 miles per hour, but yet when it hit Cuba, it was like 100 miles per hour winds. So although the storm had diminishing strength, it still killed 25 people in Haiti. It's terrible. Now, my concern really is that the western regions of Jamaica has been hit. Those regions are tourist destination, and when the storm made landfall, it made it 40 miles west of Mandeville, and also you had some gusts in Montego Bay, and the storm surged up to about 4 feet or more. So there are a lot of people right now they're concerned that in the south of Jamaica and that the government have sold out a major part of that region. They have signed contracts with foreign oil companies to start deep sea oil drilling off the coast. A place called the Pedro Bank, something like that. So a lot of Jamaicans not happy right now because there are concerns about hurricanes, earthquake and tsunami, especially in that region of Manchester and St. Elizabeth. People are not very happy. You understand? So, as we know, the current situation in Jamaica, 3/4 of the island are without electricity, and a lot of people seeking shelters across the island. No water, and quite a few people, approximately 7 people or more, died, they said. I mean, I was listening to the news yesterday, and there was an extraordinary plane flying into the center to monitor the storms. Now, reporters came from abroad to Jamaica to monitor storm, which I found quite alarming, because if such a dangerous storm is coming, reporters should be running for cover. They should be running for cover. They started off in Kingston and had been reporting there for days. And they were on the south side of Jamaica. Then they claimed that some projection or something of the sort caused them to land on the north side near St. Anne's Bay. And they sought shelter in the north side of the island, where they realized that at that point they realized that it was upgraded to a Category 5. So that's another cause for concern as well. So like I'm saying, I'm thinking that perhaps the storm could have been um people could have been better prepared for the storm, because what it is, there's something called steering winds, which are large scale wind patterns in the atmosphere that influence the direction and speed at which weather systems like hurricane move. So these winds act like guides that push or steer hurricanes along certain paths. Steering winds, yeah. So the strength and direction of steering winds can cause a hurricane to speed up, slow down, or even change course. So all steering wind patterns affect hurricane. For example, you have a high pressure system known as ridges. When a strong high pressure area is presented, hurricanes tend to move around in periphery, often steering storm westward or northward, depending on the ridge's position. Now, for example, the Bermuda eye often steer hurricane in the Atlantic towards the southeastern US. I'm always stuttering. Sorry about that. or out to sea. Now, it's something called low pressure systems, trough or low pressure, can pull hurricanes pole eastward, sometimes causing them to curve away from the coast or to accelerate. Now, a deepening trough over the eastern US can pull storm northeast, reducing the land impact. So when steering currents weaken or become erratic, hurricanes may stall or loop, leading to prolonged impacts like heavy rainfall and flooding in one area. Hence the situation in St. Elizabeth, So this slow movement was seen in hurricanes like Hurricane Harvey, which caused devastation in Florida, and you got steering wind played a crucial role in their behavior. Weak steering currents caused Harvey to stall over southeastern Texas for several days, and the slow movement led to prolonged intense rainfall, causing catastrophic flooding in Houston and surrounding areas. It's a similar thing in Jamaica. So in these examples, the position and strength of how atmospheric pressure systems shape how each hurricane move, highlighting the vital role of steering winds in forecasting and preparedness. So it's a matter for the government to put these things in place so to avoid the devastation in the future. Now, meteorologists use a combination of tools to track steering winds in real time, and climate change may be altering these patterns in ways that hurricane behavior and risk. Now, with continued research and technology improvements, these can be vital for better preparation and predictions. Yeah, meteorologists monitor steering systems, and how climate change may influence steering patterns in the future. There's satellites, which are weather satellites. These provide continuous images and data on atmospheric conditions, including patterns and wind flow at different altitudes. Weather balloons, these are launched regularly worldwide. These carry instruments that measure temperature, humidity, and spin weeds through the atmosphere, helping map steering currents. And reconnaissance aircraft, these specifically are equipped. These are equipped planes to fly around hurricanes to directly sample wind fields and pressure patterns, providing precise data on storm structure and surrounding steering winds. And then last but not least, radar systems are land-based and airborne radar track rainfall and storm movement, offering and short-term updates on storm position and speed. So, could Jamaica have been better prepared? Well, it's a matter for the government to put these things in place. It's plain to see that the hurricane targeted the western regions of Jamaica, particularly tourist destinations, and that to me proved that the hurricane came with a vengeance to destroy Jamaica in more ways than one. Because when the hurricane landed in Cuba, it was only at a category 3, and then they made landfall in Bermuda at a category 2. So all I can say is we have to resort to these measures that I've mentioned. Not everybody's going to be able to afford these satellites and things that are available for our protection. But yeah, in the long run, it's clear that we can't avoid hurricanes. We can't avoid them, but with enough time and chance to prepare. Global warming, the average temperature of the earth is rising, extreme weather, more frequent heat waves, I mean, just to summarize, Michael Taylor, which is a climate scientist professor at the University of the West Indies, he confirmed that the um the imprints that we see, the signatures of storm in a global era, is certainly in the Caribbean Sea, because as I said before, it's 1 to 2 degrees warmer than average, and the warmth extends to quite a bit of depth. Once you have seen that warmth and depth, you not only have atmospheric moisture, you have fuel. And we are seeing it played out in more ways than one. The rapid intensification of Gilbert and Hurricane Beryl. Yeah. So these are very strong imprints of climate change. So just to conclude, here's how Jamaica geography compared to other Caribbean islands and how it influenced hurricane exposure. Um, Jamaica is one of the largest Caribbean islands located south of Cuba and west of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Now, being centrally located in the Caribbean Sea places it squarely in the common hurricane track that move north northwest during the hurricane season. This means Jamaica is vulnerable to storm surges and heavy rains from all directions, increasing the risk of flooding and coastal damage. Despite the fact that Jamaica has a mountainous terrain which can cause rainfall intense as moist air is forced up the mountains, this still can lead to flooding and landslides and cause disrupt enough. This is not enough to prevent storm damage. In comparison, the Bahamas is located in the Atlantic Ocean just off the US coast, and they often face hurricane early, but their flat terrain offer less natural protection, making storm surge especially dangerous. Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, these islands are larger and more mountainous like Jamaica and often experience severe hurricane impacts due to their location and their terrain. So all you can do in future to prepare is to make the most of like solar power, hydropower, and things like that, and make yourself safe. All right. So I hope all goes well with you and family at this sad time as everybody's coming to terms with this dreadful weather situation. And I'm here praying for one and all that things will improve and that in future you'll be better prepared. All right. Have a blessed day.